I never imagined that my life could change overnight. One moment, I was living a quiet, comfortable life, content with the small joys of family and routine, and the next, I was thrown into a world I never asked for but could hardly turn away from. It all began on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning when my attorney called me with news that sounded like something out of a movie. I had inherited 3 beachfront mansions from my late uncle, each one more magnificent than I could have imagined, situated along the coast, with the sound of the waves crashing against the shore and the sun painting gold across the water. These homes were worth millions. Suddenly, my life had shifted into a reality I had only ever dreamed about in fragments of daydreams. At first, I couldn't process it. I kept asking the attorney if he was serious, if there were any hidden strings, or if this was some kind of mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. My uncle, who had always been a private man with a flair for extravagance, had left behind a fortune that included 3 oceanfront properties, rare art pieces, and a collection of luxury cars. It felt surreal, like stepping into a parallel universe where all my financial worries could vanish overnight. I thought about what this inheritance could mean: security, opportunities, freedom, but then reality hit me harder than I expected. As I stood there, staring at the phone, a wave of excitement and anxiety crashed over me. I couldn't wait to tell my family, especially my daughter, whom I had raised with care, love, and admittedly, a cautious approach to money. I thought she would be thrilled, like any child would be if their parents suddenly inherited unimaginable wealth. I imagined her squealing with delight, jumping around, maybe even dreaming aloud about summer parties, vacations, and luxury shopping sprees. But what happened instead caught me completely off guard. Later that day, I shared the news with her over dinner. I watched her eyes widen, expecting the sparkle of joy. But instead, she went quiet. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth, and her hands trembled slightly. I smiled nervously and asked, "Well, what do you think?" I was met with a silence that felt heavier than any conversation we had ever had. Finally, she spoke, and her words sliced through me like cold steel. "Mom, you don't need to keep them. They'll just cause trouble. You should sell them and give the money to people who really need it." I froze. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My daughter, the one who still held that small, pure heart I had nurtured since she was a child, was telling me that I shouldn't hold on to millions. She wasn't even thinking about luxury, vacations, or designer clothes. She was thinking about humanity, kindness, and doing the right thing. In that moment, I realized that money, no matter how vast, could never define the values I had instilled in her. She wasn't influenced by greed or the allure of wealth. She was thinking about purpose, impact, and responsibility. I felt both proud and terrified. Proud, because she had a heart that was untainted by the lure of materialism. Terrified, because I had never faced this kind of moral crossroads before. Over the next few days, I walked along the beaches near my newly inherited mansions, trying to process my feelings. Each house was breathtaking: the first, with floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the turquoise ocean, a pristine pool, and manicured gardens. The second, a modern architectural marvel with sleek lines, open spaces, and a rooftop deck perfect for sunsets. And the third, a classic, cozy mansion that felt like a retreat from the world, with wooden decks and a fireplace that looked out over the waves. I could see myself living in any of them, enjoying the luxury I had never known. Yet my daughter's words haunted me. Could I really keep all of this wealth? Or would I be failing the one person whose opinion mattered most: my child? I decided to invite her to see the properties. I wanted her to understand the scale, the beauty, and the responsibility that came with them. As we toured each mansion, her reactions were thoughtful, not dazzled. She admired the architecture, the gardens, and the ocean view, but there was no spark of desire in her eyes. Instead, she asked questions about the communities near the mansions, the families who lived nearby, and whether these properties could be used to help people. "Mom," she said gently, "imagine turning one of these houses into a home for kids who don't have anywhere to go, or hosting a retreat for families who need a break. You could change lives with what you have now." Her words were like a revelation. I realized that these mansions while stunning and valuable, were more than just material possessions. They were opportunities. Opportunities to help, to inspire, to leave a legacy that mattered far more than money or status. I had never thought about wealth this way before. I had always imagined inheritance as a personal gain, a means to live comfortably and indulge in a bit of extravagance. But through my daughter's eyes, I saw a new vision. Wealth as a tool, not a trophy. Over the next few weeks, I researched possibilities, spoke with charities, and consulted with legal and financial advisors. I wanted to ensure that any decision I made would honor my daughter's insight while being practical and sustainable. I discovered local programs that helped underprivileged children with education, summer camps, and even therapy for families in crisis. I learned about initiatives that supported artists, environmental conservation, and community wellness. The ideas seemed endless, and yet each one felt like it could fit into the vision my daughter had sparked. Then came the moment of truth. I had to make a choice. Sell the mansions for quick profit, keep them as private retreats, or use them to make a real difference. My heart raced as I pondered the decision. Selling could bring instant wealth and financial freedom. Keeping them could bring personal joy and indulgence. But helping others could create a legacy that outlasted both of us. I looked at my daughter and realized that her hope, her pure intention, was guiding me toward a decision that my heart knew was right. I chose to transform the mansions into something greater than myself. The first would become a retreat for children from underprivileged backgrounds, giving them the chance to experience the ocean, nature, and creative workshops that many of us take for granted. The second would be a community hub, hosting programs for families struggling with mental health, poverty, and social challenges. The third would support artists and innovators, a space where people could gather, create, and inspire one another, all with the backdrop of the ocean as their muse. It wasn't easy to give up the idea of personal luxury, but watching my daughter's eyes light up at the thought of helping others reminded me why I had made this choice. The first guests arrived a few months later, and I will never forget that day. Children who had never touched the sand or felt the thrill of the ocean ran across the beach, their laughter echoing like music across the waves. Families hugged, cried, and smiled in ways that made my heart swell with pride. I saw my daughter sitting on the deck of the first mansion, holding hands with a little girl who reminded me so much of her younger self. And I realized that this was wealth in its truest form, creating joy, opportunity, and lasting impact. As I watched the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I understood that inheritance wasn't just about receiving. It was about choosing how to use what you are given. My uncle's generosity had given me the means to transform lives, but it was my daughter's wisdom and compassion that guided me toward a purpose I could have never imagined alone. I learned that wealth, when paired with empathy and vision, could do far more than provide comfort. It could heal, inspire, and uplift. Looking back, I realized that the true value of those 3 beachfront mansions wasn't in their walls, pools, or ocean views. It was in the possibilities they represented: the chance to touch lives, to cultivate joy, and to leave a legacy that mattered. My daughter's voice, small but powerful. They see what we overlook, feel what we ignore, and sometimes guide us toward choices that define who we truly are. Now, every morning, I wake up to the sound of waves, not just as a symbol of luxury, but as a reminder of the lives we've touched and the difference we can make. The mansions have become more than buildings. They are living stories of hope, compassion, and transformation. And I know that whenever I feel lost, I only need to hear my daughter's voice, reminding me that the greatest inheritance isn't wealth itself, but the way we choose to use it.